Welcome to the Gifted Woman podcast with your host, Muenz. This is the place where you can come into full alignment with who you are without a mask. This is the place to discover what your unique gifts are. So let's go. Oh my God, you guys are in for it. We have Elizabeth Marberry, and she is the fearless marketing mentor and CEO. She's a visibility and marketing expert with a heart for authenticity and fun. Bobby. Elizabeth launched her thriving wedding dance coach business in 2010 and grew it to a multi-six-figure brand. And after 14 years as a wedding industry leader, Elizabeth has grown her social media influence to over 120,000 combined account followers while mentoring her expanding list of private clients to the same social media success. She's a host of Strut It, Bold Visibility Through Instagram Marketing, a podcast that blends her passion and energy with simple yet proven marketing strategies that creative entrepreneurs can easily understand and implement. Message is to learn how to make Insta fun for your business, and that's where we're going to get started. So I think if you just walk us into how you even discovered that you loved learning about Instagram, and then you were like, wait a second, I'm so obsessed, why don't I teach this to people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. And yes, okay, so how it all started. Do you remember back in 2020 during the pandemic when Clubhouse was a thing? Does anyone remember Clubhouse? It
Like,
was
yeah, kind of.
okay, so for those of you who are like, what the heck is she talking about? It's an audio app where essentially during that time, and since then Clubhouse has changed, but it was invite only. So there was all this like rage about like you had to be invited. So it was like this kind of VIP club. And I remember like I got an invite and everyone's locked in their house. No one has anything to do. So it was like perfect way to connect with people. And it was this audio app where essentially you'd be in these rooms and there would be these speakers on stage and then they would pull you up on stage to speak. And so I started hanging out in all of these social media rooms and I heard all these like big influencers and brands and like social media marketing experts teach all of this stuff. And so I became fascinated. I was just like, wait, what? Like, how does this work? Because at that time, I had gotten all of my leads and all of my revenue just without social media. It was Google, we had great SEO, we had so many referrals, we had over 150 5-star reviews on The Knot, which is a wedding website at that time. And so I didn't even feel like I had a lead generation problem, but I'm such an ambitious business owner that I was just like, I know that there's more. Like I'm still just scratching the surface of what's possible for my company. And at that time, I was also building my first ever coaching business around that time too. So at that time, I had two different accounts. I had my dance studio account and then my personal brand account. And I just started learning about, short form video specifically at that time. Like, the TikTok videos were like TikTok totally blew up in 2021, or I'm sorry, 2020. And then soon after, Instagram introduced Reels in order to compete with TikTok, right? Because TikTok was getting so much market share from these short form videos. And so I have always been a fan of video. Like I am a former professional dancer, so I'm no stranger to the stage and the spotlight, and I love it. I love being on stage. I love performing. And I also in the past, like I just was one of those people who I loved like editing videos on like iMovie and things like that. Like, so what, for whatever reason, like video was always kind of an art form that I liked and kind of geeked out on. And so that's what kind of like kicked off my journey is like learning. I got to learn from these experts that you would have to pay thousands of dollars to be in the room with. And I just was consuming their information. I was asking them questions. They were looking at my account. They were giving me feedback. And so that's when I started to post a reel every single day on both my personal brand and my studio business. And my personal brand like blew up first. I had a video start to go viral and then, it kind of just snowballed from there. And then my wedding business slowly kind of caught up. And through both of those experiences, I learned how you actually leverage this to impact your bottom line and get leads and boost brand visibility and all of that. And I just fell in love with the
Wow.
art form of it.
Oh my God. Like everything that you're saying, and then it flashed me back to Clubhouse. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember people were like, I got invited. And I remember at that time, I was like, I don't want to be on anything else. Like when you're already
Yes.
an online business owner, you're kind of just like, I got to simplify. But then as you were talking, I was like, whoa, what a wheelhouse of gold that you jumped into. And not only did you jump into, you like intuitively, intentionally jumped in and like, because you were so obsessed with it, are you still as obsessed with it then as you are now? Or like, because you've mastered it more, are you now diving into something else?
Oh my gosh, I love this. So I'd say it's both.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm an Instagram marketing coach, but what I also like to kind of talk about is like I'm a marketing mentor. Like yes, it's Instagram, but like I just love marketing. I love how you're messaging, I love positioning, I love, activating your ideal clients and getting them to take action. And like to me, marketing is a form of art. And so, do I still love Instagram Reels? Yes, to me, it is the most fun way you can market your business. So, yes, I'm still very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that like Instagram has been tough in the last year. They're just going through so many changes. In 2021, 2022, it was easier to reach more people with Reels. And since then, the market has become really saturated. So it's much harder to stand out. So there's the piece of it that's like out of my control. I don't love that,
Yeah.
like that part of it.
Yeah.
But that's part of why what I teach I'm is like an algorithm proof marketing strategy, because at the end of the day, it's marketing. And
Yes.
part of what I have mastered and what I'm definitely still passionate about is how do you market yourself in a 15-second video? How do you do it in 7 seconds?
Yeah.
How do you do it in 30 seconds, right? And so the short form video content I really, really love.
Yeah.
And I'm still very much in love with that form of content.
Yeah. So you're like, your heart is in getting your message out in the most effective manner. And like, are there people specifically that you're like, the world needs to know about them? Like, is there a specific industry or is it anyone who has something that they're just like I have one client I'm thinking about right now, and she's a sound bowl healer, and she cries when she talks about what she does because she's like, I just want to go into hospitals and raise the vibration in the room. And like, I want people like that to really rise to the top. And I like everything in my body gets on board and it's like, okay, go mode. And then I'm like, that's where my attention goes. So is there anything that like any industry or any certain type of human or just, that you're like, this person needs to succeed?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is why I love video so much is you can get it on video and you can tell your story. You can cry on video. Like I lost my father in a very tragic way when I was 20 years old. And I've created content where I like shared that story because a lot of people see me and they're like, oh my God, she's so bubbly and she just seems to have it together. And I'm like, no, I've walked through the fire, okay, to get to this point of, and I still do. I'm a human.
Yeah.
But my point is like to me, that's why video is so powerful is like your client, like what if she got on camera and like she said, here's the thing, I just want to do this, and she gets emotional and she, and then all it takes is like one of those videos to start to pop off and then people share it and and then you can really get your message out there. So I don't feel like it's not
Yeah.
like industry specific. I think that's where the strategy comes in, right? Is like how I would like one of my clients right now, she has this incredible Etsy shop where she sells like personalized picture frames, right? So how I would coach her to promote that is different from how I would, tell
Yeah.
like a sound healer. So there's different strategies and it's like messaging and how to essentially how do you play the game of Instagram because you have to, like, if you're gonna join these apps, you do have to play the game. Like, I always kind of think it's funny when people are like, I just hate it, I hate it, and I'm like, then just get off of it. Like, it's
Yeah.
your choice, right?
Yeah.
But if you decide to get in front of this global audience that you have access to in the palm of your freaking hand, then you're going to have to play the game. But that doesn't mean that you can't be authentic. That doesn't mean that you have to just like chase the trends. And like, I was just sharing an audio with a client yesterday. She has a Pilates studio. And she was like, Elizabeth, this one just doesn't like feel like me or our brand. Like, do I still like, do I need to use it? Is it like I'm thinking about it the wrong way? And I was like, no, I'm like, if you hear an audio and it doesn't resonate with you, don't use it. Like, there
Yeah.
are so many different trending audios. You don't need to take this one I shared that's like blowing up right now. If it does, so you can still make it your own. And one objection I hear from people who don't really understand Instagram is they kind of think that it sways totally toward a younger demographic, and that if their clients are 50 plus, for example, that
Yeah.
they're not on there, and that's just not true. That's
No.
not true. Like, everyone is on there. In fact, I feel like Instagram is such a part of our culture now. Like, I went to Sedona in February, and I remember like hiking into this like portal, like, I don't know, it was just so cool. Or the vortex, the portal, same thing. And
Same thing.
there was this older couple, and they're probably like 65 or something. And I remember they were like, oh, yeah. And overheard them talking to another couple, and they're like, we discovered this hike on Instagram. And I'm like, exactly my point. I'm like, everyone's on there. That's where you go to shop for your products, your
Uh-huh.
services. Like, you're Googling, you're checking all the places. So to me,
Yeah.
it feels really important.
Oh, were saying something. Oh, okay. So as you have these people, you're not only walking them through how to market themselves, you're also helping them with their limitations in their mind. Because when someone's saying, "Oh, there's no one 50," and like even when I hear the market saturated and all that, like you were saying earlier, in my mind I'm thinking, like, is it true? Or, and when someone's like, "Oh, the views are down," in my mind I'm also thinking like, "So what?" Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
all these things that come up, I'm like, so what? So keep doing your thing. Eventually, it all adds up.
Yes, exactly. Like, why are you making it a problem? It's not a problem. This is just part of showing up online every day.
It's part
Sometimes
of
you'll have low views.
everything. Like,
Yes.
think about like not just showing up online. It's like you're showing up offline. I have a friend who her husband goes door to door and you know I think does insurance or something, but he's like for every yes, there's like 10 no's. Or even more than that, for 20 no's. It's like in any industry, if you want it bad enough, it will happen eventually. And then to hire mentors like you along the way, short circuits what would have taken 10 years. And then they can do that with you in just like a few months or several months or whatever it is. It's like you're not just working the marketing piece, you're working the mental piece. And you're helping people understand how to play the game of Instagram. And then there's another game if you want to play TikTok. Like it doesn't, you can take the same concepts, but it has to be done in different formulas. And like for me, I just view TikTok as it's my playground. I'm just playing. I don't know what I'm doing. To me, there's like, I feel like I know what the formula is. I just want to play though, because on Instagram, I mean, like the whole thing is just playing though. It's just playing
Hmm.
and getting better at what you do. And if you have done it for a long time and you haven't seen a lot of growth, that's when you go, or even at the beginning, if I would have known what I know now at the beginning, you start. So then maybe you don't have so many years of struggle and questioning and wondering, what the hell am I doing? And also, whenever someone's wham about it, I'm like, this is free. Don't even. Like, this is
Yes.
free marketing. It's free.
Yes.
Why are we
Yes.
complaining about something that is very easy?
I know. I always use like the phone book analogy because
Yeah.
I remember growing up like getting the giant like yellow pages on the front porch, and I always tell people, I'm like, think about if you were a small business back then. You had to pay for an ad. You had to wait for it to be printed. God knows how long that took. Then
Yeah.
you had to say a prayer and hope that that person needed your service, and they would scroll. Oh my God, they would turn to oh my God, I'm like in the
I
the
know. I know.
Instagram space way too much. So they are turning to the yellow page, and then they find like, okay, here's like, like this person does eyebrows, and look, there's like hundreds of eyebrow
Oh,
people, and you just have your company name and your phone number, and you just like say a prayer. Like what? Like what we have now is like the yellow pages on crack. Okay, like
ooh, ooh. Okay, now that you're saying that, I'm like, that is such a good way to view what you do. Like, say you are an ad in the yellow pages, and it's your energy that is the thing that is giving away if that person wants to work with you or not. Like, it's the information, it's how you execute, but it really is your personality, your energy. So, like, you didn't have that opportunity on the yellow pages. So, if you have that opportunity now, show people, and that's why authenticity is so freaking important, because if you're one person in front of the camera and you're someone else, your business won't survive anyway. It'll tank. But if you
yes.
are genuine and you have that integrity on and off the camera, you're good. Like, people are going to know that sometimes you're going to look a little better when you're filming versus when you're not filming. Like, you know, 10 minutes ago, my hair was like over here and I had on my Gilmore Girls shirt with no bra on, and it's like, it's like that but we also love that. So I, okay, so here's what was also coming up is, what's like your favorite client success story? Like someone that came in, they had certain things going on, because I want you to speak to the people who are going to be like, that's exactly me. What did they have going on that they then just like, their success like went to the roof, and you're just like a proud mentor on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I recently had a client step into my 30-day Insta Growth private mentorship, which is, just a month of like intense work together. And she had over 5,000 followers, which, seems like on the surface like really good. But her engagement and like her account was basically dead in the water.
Yeah.
Like all of her content, it wasn't resonating. She would get like 50 views. Like there was just a disconnect in like her power as she's like a business money mentor. And it's similar in terms of like the world that you play in, where there's like this spiritual aspect to it
Yes.
too. And so that of course is challenging
Yes.
to get across. Like it just takes refinement, it takes practice, it takes experimentation and getting curious. And so during this 1 month process, we have a couple private calls, but my favorite part is that as the clients start to implement what I'm teaching them in real time, like during
Yeah.
this month, they're sending me their content. I'm like, okay, like this is why this didn't work.
Mm.
Like I can look at a piece of content and tell you exactly why it didn't work. Okay. And there's definitely some times where I see a piece of content and I'm like, that should have performed better, So it's
Yeah.
not like, it's
Yeah.
not, always obvious. But so anyways, there was a lot of back and forth. And by the end of the month, her I can't remember the exact numbers, but like her engagement was up like 1,000% and her reach was up like 800%. So essentially, like at the beginning of the month, I genuinely told her, I was like, we might need to start your account over, because it was like that. Like it was like sometimes you have to be mindful of if you built an audience for a
Yes.
specific niche and then you pivot, sometimes that's why your engagement's in the toilet. And I honestly, I've been through a huge brand pivot in the last year on my account, because I
Yeah.
built a huge audience of people who followed me because they liked my dancing. And
Yeah.
now I'm talking all about marketing, and my dancing was always connected to my business because I said I'm a dance studio CEO. So I was very strategic about it. So it's not like my business was a secret. I would talk about it all the time, but I got a lot of followers who just wanted to watch me dance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are not necessarily my ideal clients now, unless
Right.
they're also business owners who want to use Instagram to grow. So anytime you do sort of a pivot,
Mhm.
you have to kind of think about, okay, like if your engagement and your reach and everything is kind of in the toilet, it could just be that like it's almost like you have to kind of think about wanting to attract those new people to come into your sphere who are actually like looking for the magic you're dishing up, right? And so at the beginning of this month with this client, I honestly said to her, because there was also some other things she had done previously where she had done some paid things that would drive traffic to her page. And so you have to be really careful if you do anything like that. A lot of those people that follow you are bots, or they're just like, it's not that you're paying, like she didn't pay for followers, but it was similar to that, I would say,
Yeah.
where it's like it's not actual organic
Yeah.
traffic. So
Mhm.
she kind of had all these followers who were dead. So anyways, needless to say, we took this like dead in the water Instagram account and just completely activated it and woke it up. And the reason why engagement and reach is so important is that you want, like, you're putting this effort into creating your art, right? And expressing and using your voice and all the things that are so beautiful about this. And the reason why engagement and reach is important is you want people to see what you're creating, right? So
Yes.
that's why we always
Yes.
talk about like why it is important to try to, if you get a lot of shares, it's
Ooh.
great.
Okay, you just made me have a, yeah, like an earthquake in my mind, because when you said the reason why is you want people to see, and then what came up for me was so many people don't want to actually let their stuff be seen. And so they might be complaining about like low views and all this stuff, but they actually are like, I don't want this to go viral.
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Totally. It's like
yeah,
that limiting belief that they might not even realize they have, but they're like, they secretly are terrified of going viral or being too seen because it's very vulnerable, you
yeah.
know? And that's a lot of what I help
Yeah,
my clients do is
open
like,
your spot.
oh, sorry, say that again.
Yeah, you're no, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. You said that's a lot of what my clients do.
Yeah, it's is I'm supporting them as they bust through those visibility blocks because it is when you're starting to create especially video content, right? Because it's one thing to like put a picture up. It's another
Yeah,
to like put your essence on
yeah,
camera. Like I've seen your videos where you're like moving and you're like, I mean, that's vulnerable, right? It's like here's my body, here's my
yeah,
movement, here's my expression. Like that's vulnerable.
yes.
And so what I that's actually one of my favorite parts of the work I do is help it's like I'm helping people reconnect to like their confidence, their inner sense of confidence and self-worth of I am actually worthy to be seen and it's safe to be seen. Is it safe to be seen? Like, right? One of the things I do talk about in my marketing is like haters, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, what are other people going to think? What is my neighbor going to think? What is my family going to think? What if I get a hater commenting on my content? What if, so there's that fear of like, what are people going to think? There's
Yeah.
also a fear of like, everyone does this. So like, why am I that unique, in business?
You're like when you're saying these things, all I'm having is giant sentences flash. It's like when you were saying when clients come in and they're like, what are my neighbors gonna think? What are my family? And in my mind, I'm thinking, put your blinders on and you block, or you that those are the two things you do. If you can't do those things, you're going to have them in your mind as you're even recording something. Like if I'm dancing and thinking about someone in my family seeing it, then I'm just like ha, ha, and I go into like a weird joke, like thing. But if I go, this is sent, I'm sending this to all the women who have like kind of closed in on their bodies and they want to step into their power, I'm like, I'm talking to them. And so
Yeah.
having that intention and those blinders on is the only way you can do this. It's the
Yes.
only way.
You're
Yeah.
so right. And so first of all, I have chills right now
Yes.
from like what you just described because I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's truth. Um, and I actually had to do this. So I want people to know that like part of doing this is you just have to make a decision. You have
Yes.
to choose. It really is a conscious choice. If you're not consciously choosing, then you're not doing it. And what
Yes.
I mean by that is when I decided so I'm going to speak specifically about my personal brand, which is my actual name, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not a stage name, it's like my actual name that's on my Instagram. And what I decided to do, and this was, I can't remember how long ago, maybe this was like 3 or 4 years ago, but it was when I decided to really start to show up consistently building a coaching brand, is I had a discussion with my husband and I was like, I want to build this like public figure brand. And so let's talk let's get on the same page about what does this look like, right? Because there's a certain level of like you're public. It's like very vulnerable. So I made a decision to like remove all photos of my kids from my Facebook page. And I made clear choices in my brain about like what our family felt comfortable with, in terms of like what I would share. Like some influencers share like every freaking detail of their lives, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like that, I like again, there's no one right way of doing it, but you have to tune into like what feels good for you and your family, right? So, anyways, I made that choice. But what's really interesting, what came up when you were saying about the blocking people, is as I was creating content, I could hear certain family
Oh
members
yeah.
in my head, and I knew they were watching. Like, you know them well enough, you know that they're watching. There's judgment because of past experiences or things that they actually have said. So it's not like things I'm making up in my
Yeah.
mind. Or it's like the things they're not saying, like they're not noticed. There's, like that sometimes hurts even more. But I made this bold move and I blocked so many of my family members.
Hmm. You have to.
Seriously, I did. And then once I started to do that, I felt like the chains had come
Oh
off
yes.
and I could just show up. And it
Yes.
was kind of like a fuck you energy.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, I'm gonna be myself and I
Yes.
don't give a shit. Like I'm gonna be sexy. I'm gonna
Yes.
curse. I'm gonna like
Yes.
I'm gonna just speak my truth. And that like that's part of why I was so successful is.
No.
And by the
Yes.
way, when you were saying that you were in your like Gilmore Girls shirt with your
Yeah.
bra off, my first video that went viral, I was not wearing a bra and I had like sweat marks and I hadn't showered in 2 days. So anyone who has a story about like needing to be perfect, just let it go.
Like whenever I see if I go to someone's profile and it's perfect and it's manicured, I have no interest. When I see someone who like even when people's videos start getting more professional, I lose interest.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see something I've seen in school. Like, in school it was all set up and all staged. What I want is raw, authentic, and like that doesn't mean ugly 24/7. It just means like you're ugly 50% of the time and then 50% of the time I'm like, damn, you can clean up, you know? But like to be, I don't identify because I know what real life is.
Yeah.
We know that like 2 seconds ago we were like in the bed, and so especially as business owners, all we do is we go downstairs or we go into our room. And that's what I long for, that authentic, raw, real, where we don't feel like we have to put anything on to be something else. Because when you do that, I think that's when the autoimmunes come up anyway. Like,
Mhm.
and like you were saying earlier, that you've walked through fire to get to where you've gotten to, and you losing your dad, it's like that is such a like knife in the heart, and all the things that you've walked through. I'm sure that opening up like that and being that vulnerable not only like broke you open, but it also created this gateway towards your audience to be like, oh my God, like she's talking about something real right now. She's not just talking about like, having a good mixture of both. It humanizes the business owner. And
Yeah.
it's not even strategic, it's just intuitive. So I can see why that person who was doing the money and business coaching with the spirituality, like everything started to grow because she was trusting you to guide her. And you were like putting your magnifying glass to what she was doing, whether it was doing it well or not doing it well. And like obviously your gift is to be like, oh, let's tweak that here. And then as those beliefs come up, you're able to be like, oh, that's not actually what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is there's people in her head that are influencing her ability to be authentic and raw and real. And she's filtering her own message. So like you're a healer in that regard. I mean, and that just, I can see it so clearly. So
Mm,
if
thank you.
also, I feel like, are you having a retreat come up? Or like, are you kind of thinking about something in person?
Um, Not an in-person retreat. Doing a workshop next week.
Yeah, yeah,
But I haven't even publicly announced it yet.
yeah. I'm like, there's something coming up. Um, okay, so you're doing a workshop. What are like, so you have your 30-day intensive Instagram, like what's your favorite thing in your biz, or do you love all of it and that's why you have all of
Yeah, so I'm still like with this Instagram marketing brand, it's still fairly new. Like
it? Yeah.
I've been doing this since 2022, but like officially in the last like 12 months. So it's still like as a coaching brand, it's still kind of a baby and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm still like refining all my offers and like finding what of course feels most aligned for me, but also gives my clients the best possible results.
Yes.
So what I'm most like, so I have two different parts of my business that I absolutely love. One is I recently launched a group mentorship called Hot Reels, and it's a 12-month Instagram content lab. And
Ooh.
it is so sexy and so fun. And so that group is like popping. It's so like it's fun to do it in a group setting because
Yeah.
you can kind of cheer each other on and like each other's content and of course as I'm giving feedback to you and your content everyone else is seeing it and they're like
Yes.
oh interesting right so
Yeah.
it's kind of this like collective rising vibe which I really like so I love that model and we just like we're in our first month of that program right now. It is an
Yeah.
evergreen offer so people can hop in at any point, but my plan is to kind of officially launch it, a couple times a year. But
Cool.
I'm really excited about that because the other part of what I'm doing is the people in Hot Reels are getting access to my master classes where I can go deeper on the topics that they're struggling with, but I can also sell those master classes publicly, which to me is like super fun. I love
Yeah.
creating offers and selling them, and I think that's just fun. Like it's always like experimental and fun, and I enjoy delivering. I enjoy teaching and mentoring, and
Yes.
like I just love that. So
Yeah.
anytime I get an opportunity, like I love being in response to people. Like I love
Are you
like
a generator?
so I am. Yes, yes.
Yes. That's why.
Yes, exactly. It's funny. I've just been like diving into the human design piece
Mhm.
and the whole like create in response. I'm just like, "Oh my God." Like that's why sometimes if I'm just sitting here like I feel like brain dead. I'm like
Same.
I have
Yeah.
to like see something or like
Yes.
talk to someone or work with a client or like see a
Yes.
post and like have an opinion about it. And
Yes.
that's definitely like my best work too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are
So
you
you
a generator?
yeah, I'm a generator too.
Oh.
Um, so you have your your content lab and then you have your 30-day intensive.
And then I have a 6-month private mentorship called Instaboss. And that's for people who are kind of more in your boat where you
Yes.
already are creating content all the time. Like you're no stranger to it. You know how to make a reel. You
Yeah.
know how your audience, your offers, but what you're creating just isn't getting you the results that you want.
Yes.
So in that container, we dive deep into to everything in marketing your business, specifically on Instagram, but also just on social media. And of course, that carries over into like email strategy. And so we just it's more of a deep dive into strategy of how to leverage that to grow.
That, oh my God, I can see the entire sales page for that.
Yes, it
Yeah.
exists. I'll send it to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, no, send it to me. I love, like, I can see it and I can see exactly who your ideal clients are and like the languaging you're using and how you're marketing. And I'm just like, oh my God, I would love to see it because I can feel energetically, I can see a sales page and my thing is energetically, like, how do we add some flavor to it instead of like it's black and white, it has all the elements, but sometimes that little like think, and then that's when everything just pops off.
Yes,
Um,
you're so
I
good at that.
thank you. I love, yeah, it's like, how do you, and like you were saying, it's like we sit and we're just like, when you try to come up with something, you can't unless you have someone responding. And so, as you were talking about the lab too, I was like, oh my God, that's essential on so many elements because one, you have a bunch of people that are seeing what other people do and they're like, oh, I want to hire her. Or like, oh, I love how she does that. That's similar to what I want to do. And so you're creating this synergy of people. And like you said, it's a collective rising. And
Mhm.
so I'm like seeing, oh, yeah, it's just like I see everything in energy forms. And it's like,
Mm.
I don't know if you know anything about the Lumerians, but it's like a collective right. Look up the Lumerians and you'll be like, what the hell is she talking about? But also, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it's like these like really tall beings of energy and whatever. But yeah, that is amazing. So everyone who's listening to this, you know exactly what bucket you fit into, and you know whether it's going to be the content lab, the 6 month private mentorship for the more like experienced business owner, or it's going to be the 30-day intensive just to like get your feet in the water or dip your toes in the water. And so you know where to place yourself, and we'll have all your contact information. But one last thing that you could offer for any business owner who has just this beautiful message, and maybe they don't even know where to begin. Maybe they've been stuck in their head a long time and they're like, "Oh, like I don't even know what to share." Do you have like one technique that you can offer them that helps them get out of their head and get into action mode?
Mm. Oh my gosh, there's so many tips coming through. Um, so I guess I'll go to the piece of creating in response, which I know not everyone operates in that way, but that's what really helps me when I'm in that place of overthinking is I will like actively like scroll, meaning like
Hmm.
strategically scroll.
Yes.
Not like, oh, I'm like so bored and I'm just like, sitting on the toilet scrolling. No, not like
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like very strategically scrolling. And what I'll do is a lot of times I have learned because I'm a dancer and I've always I'm so activated by music or I'm not. So many times, and if that's you listening or not, music, audio is of course a very important part of creation and that can give you like just the audio alone can give you so much inspiration. So what I do is I'll scroll with my ears and I'll listen for
Mhm.
like the sounds that I like. And then if I hear one that I'm like, ooh, yes, like I feel activated, like I'm turned on by it. Then I look, and this is where the strategy comes in. I'll see if it's trending, and then I'll see if it's under 10K uses, because that's just part of my strategy that I use and I teach. And if it is, then I'll save it. It's not like I start creating in that moment or anything like that, but I'll just like save it. So I'll like do this for like just whenever I decide to do it. Honestly, I don't have rules around it. And then I just save these audios. And then I also do that from a standpoint of just seeing what people are doing on there, like either on TikTok or Instagram. They're both great places where you can search your niche. Like you can search for other people in your niche and just see what they're doing because even if you're like, oh my gosh, I would never do that, that's good because then you'll be like, here's what I would say. And there's your piece of content,
Ooh,
right?
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really just like being strategic about it. Now, one thing to be mindful of though is I also have been in mental spaces where like I wasn't in a place to really be able to do that because I was kind of feeling down,
Yeah.
like really
Yeah.
low. And so sometimes I would do that and it would like I would notice that my vibration and everything just felt lower after I did it. So you have to be very in tune with yourself. But for me, if I feel energized by it and then I'm like, "Oh, I have all these ideas or I have these opinions," that really helps me with content creation. And then if you're in that other boat where you're just like, I am so like down in the dark, like that's where a coach, a mentor, someone who can help you to like just get out of your own way. One of my clients right now, she is just a chronic overthinker. And so
Yeah.
what I tell her right now, her only job is I just want her to post every day. I
Mm.
don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care if she's following all
Yes.
the rules. She just needs to get in the habit of
Yes.
creating a piece of content and posting it.
Yes.
Creating a piece of content and posting it. And she said, Elizabeth, it feels so cheesy. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, welcome to content creation. I was like, there's no getting around the cheese. Like, if you're
No.
not used to getting your face on camera, your body on camera, you're going to feel cheesy. It's going to be awkward. You're going to be cringe. Who gives a shit? Like, you just need to get into action.
Yeah.
And so for her, I'm just like, the win was you posting that. The win was you pushing through that discomfort and posting it. And guess what's really interesting? This particular person, she also had a completely, she hadn't even posted on our Instagram in like years. Like it was like dead. And she's been posting and she's getting like 2,000 views, which is insane for her because, when she first started, she was getting maybe like 300. So again,
That's
the views don't
awesome.
matter, but it's like I'm kind of
But they
like,
matter.
right? Like it's kind of
Yeah.
like, but look at you. You posted that imperfect video and it's at 2,000 views, girl. Like that's 2,000 people who saw what you did. And the win is that you just did it. And that gets to be good enough right now.
For real. It's like just step one. Step
Yes.
one, just get it done.
Yes.
It and I like it doesn't go away. No matter how long you do it, you're still like, what was that?
Yes.
Every
Yes.
time you're like, what the hell was that? And then you're like, what am I even saying? But then
Yes.
those are the ones that those are the ones that end up doing really well because you don't care.
Yes. Yes, I did a video the other day where I legit, like, this idea just popped into my head. I filmed it once, like, there was not multiple takes. I did it once. And I was laughing because there's this like very natural filter that I like to use because I'm like, I don't want to put on makeup every day. I don't want to not look like
Yes.
myself, but I like reduce the barriers to creation. If I want to use a filter, I'm going to use a friggin' filter.
Yes.
And it's just natural. Who cares? But anyways, so I had this filter on and I liked this audio and I did feel in that moment like I would just want to create something, right? So I just always kind of pay attention to when I feel that way. But I was holding a cup of coffee and I liked this audio and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just took a little sip of the coffee and when I did that my filter went away because that's what happens when you use a filter is you take a and so I looked at that and I was like, "Oh my God, this would be the funniest POV video, point of view, where you're like when you just realized that your filter disappears when you're drinking a cup of coffee. Think about how specific that is. And when you're watching it, you can't stop watching it because you see my face and then you
Yes.
see my age spots, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like very captivating to the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm activating those people who use filters, who are showing up, who are, whatever. And that video got over like 30,000 views. And it took me like less than a minute. I just had this idea. I posted it and I was seriously like, that was so stupid. Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, what the hell? Like, why did I even do that? This is so embarrassing. I don't even want to look at it. And then that's the one that got like 30,000 views. It's like, what the heck?
That's like I have one where I was just all I was doing was I was filming the back of Alex, my husband, and Bodie, my son. Like just filming the back of them walking through a path we walk through every day for like 5 seconds, 2.9 million. And then
No.
Alex, whenever we like, I don't, whenever we're talking about something, he goes, "My calves are so famous because it's just his calves." And it's like a literal 4 to 5 seconds. And I put something over it that felt just so whatever. And I'm like, there
Oh,
is strategy. And then there's just like people like that. And you don't always know. You don't always
yeah.
know why. But then, like, if I see someone and the filter goes off, they're drinking their coffee, I that's funny. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm like, bam, because it's not selling anything. It's just like that's funny, that's educational, and then it gets you looking at that person's profile. So
Exactly.
all of it is so good. So thank
Yeah.
you so much. This is you're gonna help so many people even just start getting their family blocked if that's like the first thing. And and then
Step
also
one, block your family.
step one. And also it's like the second thing is maybe looking in the mirror and going, is it me that doesn't want the visibility? Or can I just shift that and can I go for it? Like if I say I want it, can I actually go for it? And can I not be like okay with a few views and can I actually get a little uncomfortable and go for it? You have many selections options to do that with Elizabeth, so make sure that you go and see everything she has to offer and check out the workshop. That was epic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun.